This debate was a mess. Man, they had to get control of those candidates. Once they lost control, they never got it back. So look, I like letting folks finish their answer within bounds of reason. I like a little bit of crosstalk, but not too much. Me, look, I encourage fiery debate. I've said that a million times on the show. Like last debate was super fiery, loved it. It was the best debate they had. But Buttigieg I'm giving him one example because it was the most egregious, but they all did it, okay? But in one Bernie Sanders answer, Buttigieg talked the entire time over Bernie Sanders. Somebody stop him. Look, dude, you're gonna go next. Okay, that's how it works. Okay, first he goes, then you go. And to be fair, Elizabeth Warren, one time, without getting asked a question, just went into a whole minute-long answer. Now, to be fair to her, everybody was doing it. So she's like, well, then I'm gonna just start randomly talking.
Yeah, she wasn't the one who was the worst offender. It was by far Buttigieg, just talking every time Bernie spoke. He has internal polling, and because that's what he is, he's a polling machine, and he just does what his consultants tell him to do. It's super clear that going after Bernie works for him, going after him and saying that he's the equivalent to Donald Trump, or saying that he's one extreme and Bloomberg's the other, and that he's the middle ground. And he keeps hammering that point home, and he clearly had got some memo and his advisors told him he has to talk more. So he just decided to talk every time Bernie spoke, every time he spoke. And I couldn't hear either of them.
Yeah, that's right. So look, but Buttigieg as usual is making a long-term mistake. I understand the short-term strategy, which is you'll get a poll in his case that says, hey, your lane for being able to make a comeback against Bernie is by being the most anti-Bernie candidate. So that's why he goes out there and says, oh, Bernie's this and Bernie's that. But what he doesn't realize is, and then in the long term, he's damaging his brand considerably, because he's now seen as the guy who was the most conservative out of all the candidates. And the reason why we all think he's so fake is because we have eyes and we have ears. And we remember when this campaign began and he was for Medicare for all. Now he's the most virulently against Medicare for all. It makes no sense. But Pete, we saw you change your positions in the middle of a wine cave. We saw it with our own eyes. So to me, he feels like a robot that's malfunctioning at the end of a movie. And then people start to go, oh my God, he's not real, right? I think even in the wine cave, people are looking around going, wait a minute, didn't he say that before? There's something wrong with the algorithm. Okay, it's repeating the same talking points with the same cadence. And all he does, to Emma's point, is go based on the polling to try to find an angle. Do you have any actual genuine opinions?
He uses Obama's cadence. We're now seeing that he's slowly trying to sound more and more like Obama, and why did he concede the point to Bernie Sanders about the billionaires? He talked over him when Bernie went back after him and said, you have 45 billionaires donating to your campaign, and then he started talking back over him saying, that's not true, that's not true. Finally got the floor and goes, there's hundreds of thousands of people donating to my campaign in addition to those 50 people. I was like, wait, I thought that was 45, and also you just said it wasn't true, and then conceded the very point that Sanders was making about your billionaire
donors. Yeah, I think
donors.
the reason why there was a lot of interrupting and stuff like that going on is because there was a lot of accusations that weren't based on much fact. More so in this debate than others. So as someone made that point, then they knew that that person would have to respond. As that response happens, you have to talk over them so they won't say, hey, everything you just said is absolute nonsense. So let me explain why. You just go, hey, you know what you did? You said, and we're of course gonna get to this, but Bernie's supported for every despot in the world. You love them all. You're just like Donald Trump. You would walk and hold hands and write love letters with Kim Jong-un. And he goes, well, let me tell you the reality. But this is the truth. This is the truth. But there's the truth. Hey, but let me tell you. And then you just talk over them so they don't have a chance to tell you how much you just lied on them. That seemed to be part of the reason. The times he did it was when his lie was about to get exposed.
Yeah, and look, speaking of lies, Biden said that Obama didn't say the same thing that Bernie Sanders said about Cuba. Just not true, not remotely true. Is there a single journalist in America? Can any of the moderators actually watch videotape? It's on tape. They said the same exact thing. But yet the moderators let Biden lie about that. They let everybody lie, and they're the ones who framed the lie in the first place. Well, Bernie Sanders, you said this about Cuba. You said that they might have actually had something positive in Cuba, like sun, when obviously Castro's a dictator and there is no sun in Cuba, right? Like, what? No, but there actually is. And they do have literacy in Cuba. And Obama said the same thing. When Bernie made that defense, we were all relieved, like, oh, okay, good, he at least stood up for himself. And then they just lied over him, and no one corrected the record. It's so maddening.
It's such a great example of their bias, though, because even though Obama said materially the same thing that Bernie Sanders said there, they go, well, Obama doesn't actually like Castro. He's not gonna really change things. He's a reasonable individual. Bernie Sanders is crazy. He would actually be like him. So he means it more, despite the fact that he said the same thing, than Obama did. He actually means it, and so we should go after him, even though we look like complete hypocrites, if anyone bothers to look into it, which unfortunately most people won't do.
Yeah, well, when Obama said, Cuba is in the Caribbean, that's because he's a good guy, smart guy. People like the Caribbean.
Harvard Law Review, Jay.
That's right. When Bernie Sanders says it's in the Caribbean, I guess he means it's a wonderful place to live, where it's kind of heavenly and nice, and I guess you want to turn us communist. But I'm not exaggerating by much. If you saw the debate, they framed it like he likes Castro when he didn't say he liked Castro. They made it seem like he supports authoritarian governments when he said 1,000 times that he doesn't. He said it in the original comment, just like Obama did. And they both gave credit to the Cuban government for the same exact things, literacy and healthcare. You know why both Obama and Sanders did it? Because it's true. So just because some government is terrible doesn't mean that you have to lie about their record. They're terrible for other reasons and for a lot of other reasons. So you don't have to pervert things to try to smear Bernie Sanders, but actually they do though, because they don't have anything on Bernie Sanders, so they do have to pervert things to try to smear him.
Well, yeah, well, the way we've always kind of operated in this country is you say flowery things about us, and if it's another country that's ever done anything, many things, you're supposed to never say anything okay about them. Unless you're Donald Trump, then you go ahead and you praise dictators all across the world just because they agree with you on something. So they go hard with that, but you can't. There was the outrage over today over the Bernie Sanders comments was constant, like you can't say anything about that or else we don't have the same ground to stand on, or how much more superior we are to everyone else. That's really the problem with saying anything of any factual nature about any other country that's done anything. But I think we've all agreed that, and I saw also on Twitter and everything as the debate went on, it was a mess, which actually makes it hard. And I'm gonna put you on the spot, Emma, but you can go second. Who won though?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, no. So look, Bernie wins every debate lately. Well, that's not true because Elizabeth Warren won the last debate. In the earlier debates, Kamala Harris won. A lot of different people won, right? But now that Bernie's the front runner, he, in a sense, wins every debate that he doesn't lose. I know that it almost sounds like a cable news host, but in reverse, right? But what I mean by that is Klobuchar, and I don't want to be unfair to the other candidates, but Klobuchar is in a massive hole. Tom Steyer is in a massive hole. So they've got to win overwhelmingly these debates to get back into it. Did they do that? Hell no. No, Steyer and Klobuchar were pretty much irrelevant in this debate. Buttigieg was rude and his cadence and his same platitudes are getting super old. I think they're wearing thin even in the wine cave. I believe that. I don't think I thought his performance was terrible. Let's get to a major point about the debate, which is Joe Biden feeling like he was yelling at everybody, "Get off my lawn! Boy, when are you gonna let me finish?"
He didn't say one sentence that made sense, and I mean this like I feel sorry for him, but nothing made sense. It was all slurred words, right? I mean, do you guys know what point did he make except saying it wasn't a joke that he would nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court?
Yeah, no, Emma, thank you. Near the end of the debate, Biden says, "I would nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court." And everybody applauds. It's a good moment for him. Okay, it's pandering in South Carolina, but okay, God bless, right? And that would be wonderful if it happened. And then he goes, "No joke." Who said it was a joke? Why would that be a joke?
It's not a joke. It's not a joke. Why can't you take the win? The crowd's cheering for you.
Yeah, I know. Jesus.
It's one of those. He has some it's not a tick, but it's, Donald Trump always says when he's retelling a story, he says, and they go sir, or they go darling when he's talking about his wife or some woman. He always has those as his speech cues. Biden's is always I'm not joking here, but I'm not joking, or no, it's not even funny. Oh, but no, but I'm being serious. He has these little inserts once he lands a line and people respond, as the applause or whatever laughter is going. He jumps into no, but I'm gonna, instead of elaborating, he has to have a bridge to him elaborating, and that's always it.
That's exactly right. That's his way of saying this is not political. I'm being genuine, right? So now I'm getting through process of elimination to who won, because then that leaves Bloomberg and Warren. Well, Bloomberg and Warren fought for a big part of the debate. Warren keeps landing those heavy punches on Bloomberg, and body blow, and Bloomberg's hurt. But Bloomberg might have literally bought the crowd. So we looked into it because there was this very audible cheering for Mike Bloomberg. We're like, there's Bloomberg enthusiasts, not just Bloomberg supporters, but people are like, yes, Mike Bloomberg, give him another billion, Mike, right? It seemed unusual. And not only did they do that, but they started booing Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. So I'm gonna come back to that in a second. But we looked into it. Turns out that there's a couple of different ways you can get into the debate. One is by being in some of the camps. And so Bloomberg will have his staffers there, so they're literally paid to cheer for him. But to be fair, they all have their staffers there, some staffers, okay? But it turns out you could be a sponsor of the debate, and this is a major way to get in the debate. And the tickets cost what? It's $1,750 to $3,200. So if you got $3,200 per ticket, yeah, you're cheering Mike Bloomberg.
And Buttigieg and Biden got disproportionate cheers as well when they did not. I don't think any of them performed well, but Bloomberg just stopped talking in the second half, and that kind of benefited him. When he doesn't talk and he just buys ads, he's sitting pretty, because then he just coasts on name recognition. And I think everyone had an average or below average or terrible performance. I feel like Bernie Sanders was the winner, but I'm not gonna sit here and praise his performance. But again, he got the front runner treatment, and every question is framed in a negative way towards him. So they let Klobuchar, they'll say, this is an idea, education, just as an example. What would you do about that? Bernie has never gotten a question like that in the debate ever. The question is always framed already from a position about what he stands for and why it's wrong and why there's a problem with it. They never tee him up to give, his opinion on an open-ended policy question.
Without framing it against him, absolutely right. I mean, they didn't do this, but it's a whole, like if they were gonna ask the same education to Klobuchar, be like, Bernie, you say you wanna give education to every kid in the country. That sounds communist. Explain why you're such a communist. But obviously I'm exaggerating, but again, if you watch the beginning of the last debate, not by much. Now Bernie's a socialist. Does everybody here hate socialists?
Right.
Right. That's how you begin it.
Self-described democratic socialist. Every other question when they're talking about him, how are you gonna win like that? Every time.
And partly because since they're all millionaires, they think like, well, everyone I know in the club can't stand democratic socialists. And so if I just tell people he's a democratic socialist, no one in the club will vote for him. Well, you're right about the club, but you're not right about the rest of the country. So now, the reason I brought up the booing is, I think Elizabeth Warren lost a little bit of momentum because Bloomberg's paid folks, and by the way, some rich folks might have bought it and might genuinely like Mike Bloomberg, but I don't know this, but could Bloomberg have bought tickets at $3,200 for people to attend? Very, very, very easily. He's bought everything else.
Oh,
okay.
And it's just like, come on, we know he's done that, right? And we don't know for sure, but this is the guy that ate up all of the staffers in the states that he wants to win by paying them double what they normally would get, and they don't even support him. They're like, yeah, I'm telling my whole family to support Bernie, but I'm taking the money and working for Mike Bloomberg. Ryan Grimm reported on that really well. So it's that I don't put it past him at all. And I think it was effective against Warren because she kind of backed down, even though still her most effective moments were when she went after Bloomberg in this debate.
Yeah, so when Warren got booed for talking about how Bloomberg mistreated women at his company, wow. And you want to talk about how Bernie Sanders supporters are rude online? If Bloomberg's paying people to boo Warren while she's trying to protect women at his company, I mean, that's a whole different level. I mean, imagine if Bernie had done that. So, but unfortunately, it partly took the wind out of her sails. That dirty trick partly worked. So at the end of the day, did Warren make up enough ground? Did she tell you why she's better than Bernie Sanders and the rest of the conservatives? I'm not convinced she did. So I'm with Emma. Almost by default, Bernie wins. He's the front runner. He was the center of attention, and everybody else was just a total disaster. Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, Jayar. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.